Hello, and welcome to
A Couple Codes.
My name is Cody.
And my name is Emily.
We're currently on week 7 of the Odin Project, an open source curriculum for web development. Today we'll talk about our progress from weeks 3 through 7 and anything noticeable that we've learned.
So Cody, how far are you in the curriculum now?
So I started the full stack JavaScript learning path, which has 5 courses. I completed the first course, which is the intermediate HTML and CSS, which actually has 2 projects, and I completed those 2 projects, an admin dashboard and a sign-up form. Currently, I'm almost a third of the way through the JavaScript course, which has 51 lessons, and this seems like it's the largest course within the curriculum and within the JavaScript learning path, and it has about 16 projects. I've completed 4 of them: the library, tic-tac-toe, restaurant, and to-do list apps. How about you, Em?
Well, I finally completed the foundations course, which took me a bit. But now I am about 3/4 of the way through the very first section of the full JavaScript pathway. So the section that I'm working on just focuses on intermediate HTML and CSS, and I just completed the sign-up form project.
Nice. Anything notable that you've learned over the past few weeks?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that I've learned about so far has probably been Emmet, which is a plugin for text editors that helps to improve your HTML and CSS workflow. So using the Emmet abbreviations can speed up your coding so much. In particular, the one that I've loved the most is called Wrap with Abbreviation, where you can basically highlight a block of code and then you type a shortcut and then you can wrap that code in however many tags that you want, and you can even use the Emmet abbreviations to quickly add classes or IDs to the tags. So that's been really nice to use. I think other than learning Emmet, I have just appreciated going in depth with CSS formatting. It's been really helpful for helping me to feel like I'm actually in control of the document flow and the page layout. I think with my coding attempts prior to the Odin project, I did a lot of trial and error, and when something worked, I didn't really know why. And I didn't understand the relationships among all the different elements. So being able to go in depth with how everything is kind of working on the back end makes it a lot easier and makes projects more approachable. And learning about CSS resets was really cool too, because that gives you a chance to kind of start your formatting from scratch instead of battling with a lot of the built-in formatting features. So what are some notable things that you've learned?
I've definitely learned a lot about JavaScript just in general, but one thing that stood out was learning to use Webpack for bundling JavaScript. Essentially, what it does is it takes your JavaScript files and condenses them to a single file so that your require statements have the proper file syntax for when it's being implemented within the browser. So instead of using your local file syntax or file structure, it'll use the browser's file structure because it's being implemented within the browser. And it also minifies the code, which can sometimes improve speed if you have a particularly large app or a lot of JavaScript that's going through as well. What was the most challenging part for you?
I think one of the most challenging parts has just been the section that I'm working on intermediate HTML and CSS, just because it's so much reading. It's just a lot of articles back to back, and you're gonna have to read a lot to get to the sign up form project. But again, it's really helpful because you get that good repetition, and I'm learning a lot and you're really going in depth, but it just takes a lot to kind of keep chugging away slowly at all that reading. But yeah, what's been challenging for you?
Webpack. Webpack is very interesting to learn about. I think there's some interesting tools also for developing your JavaScript and also just developing anything really in your local file structure. But it is a little bit abstract to know when I should actually make a new JavaScript file. So one of my projects is just a giant JavaScript file. I'm not used to the need for bundling JavaScript. I've always kind of put it at the end where I needed it. so I'm not used to like referencing which other JavaScript files, which is what this bundling is all about. So it does make debugging also slightly more difficult because you don't necessarily get a specific line where the error occurred, but there is a way around that. I need to practice actually utilizing that feature and get more knowledgeable about that specifically. Well, do you have any last thoughts to share?
Yeah, I think I have a thought that I think would probably resonate with people who are new to the web dev world. One of the most intimidating parts to me with learning coding is that once you start, all of the programming languages and frameworks, everything kind of sounds like gibberish, all the different names. But the cool part about the Odin Project is that you do get exposure to a lot of different blogs and articles and websites. And a lot of them will mention things that you don't know yet. And at that time, it's not important that you go look that up and, learn what it is right at that moment. But seeing a certain word, a certain framework or language or something mentioned multiple times in all these different ways can kind of help you over time to contextualize a meaning. And then eventually, once you formally do learn that concept, then it makes it that much easier to wrap your head around it. So you just get a lot of exposure to different things that you'll be learning along the way. So this happened with me in particular with frameworks. I saw a lot of frameworks mentioned in a lot of different articles, and by the time I got to the actual module on frameworks, it was so much easier to wrap my head around it because I'd already seen them, kind of peppered into all these different parts of my curriculum. Do you have any last thoughts?
In the projects, try to actually use the tools and concepts covered in the lessons. You can definitely get away with doing bare minimum JavaScript, HTML, and CSS with some of the projects, but it will make retaining the information harder and you will only learn the bare minimum. The Odin Project doesn't always specify what you should use. It's kind of up to you to take that knowledge that they've presented, all these resources, and actually apply it to the project. So if you're going to do the Odin Project, then you're definitely going to dedicate a lot of time to do it. So it's worth the effort to be thorough once instead of being fast and then having to go back to cover the material.
Well, that's all that we have time for today, so be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to follow along on our journey. And be sure to tell us about your own coding journey below in the comments.
Thanks for tuning in to
A Couple Codes.